Welcome students again to the class of Pricing and Product Decisions. I am Dr. Shweta Srivastav, Associate Professor, BBD University, School of Management. So students, in the previous lecture we have covered traditional system of full absorption costing. We explained the problem of over and under absorption with the help of an example. What are the problems suffered because of over and under absorption? What are the reasons for over and under absorption? That is what we have covered in the previous lecture. So, the problems which we have faced because of traditional system are actually have given us to invent a new system of costing, that is activity based costing. What was happening in the you can say traditional costing system? We are attributing cost on the basis of products, or you can say number of units. But nowadays we will see the reasons for which we have not actually assigning cost on the basis of product or services. Rather, we are assigning cost on the basis of activities performed in the organization, right? So, activity-based costing is a costing system that identifies, first of all, activities in the organization. First of all, we have to identify the activities in the organization, and we are not assigning the cost to a product or unit or a service. Rather, we are assigning cost to an activity, right? And this is applicable not only to the goods but also to the services, right? And the overheads are absorbed on the basis of consumption or usage, right? So, to combine all these four factors, activity-based costing is a costing system that identifies activities in the organization and assigns the cost of activity to all products and services according to the actual consumption by each. It means at up to what extent that particular activity is consumed by that good or service, right? So we have already discussed the problems with the traditional costing system. Now let us understand what are the reasons for adopting activity based costing. So as I told you earlier that gone are the days of labor intensive industry. This is the time of mechanization, automation, artificial intelligence. So we have more indirect costs. It means since they are indirect, they need to be absorbed, they need to be apportioned. They need to be apportioned. Since this quantum is high, we need to have a very scientific system of appropriation so that we can have a right price and a right cost. So the first reason, in previous days, the quantum of indirect costs were less. So if we had, you can say, if we have committed any mistake in calculating the overhead absorption rate, that would not have affected the cost or the price much because the quantum was less. But here the quantum of indirect cost is increasing day by day. Why? I told you the cost, because of technology, because of mechanization, and there are so many reasons. which I am going to discuss with you right now. The second is the vice versa. The direct costs are less. Direct costs are less as compared to conventional system. So we have to anyhow implement that costing system which is scientific, which is realistic, which applies not a single or uniform rate, but apply rate on the basis of the nature of the activity. That is what we'll discuss in activity based costing. So the third reason is that the systems are technology driven. So we have depreciation, right? We have depreciation, we have power, we have cost of maintenance, right? So if we know that because of mechanization we are producing product A, product B and product C, and all of them are using the same machine. So this depreciation is again an indirect cost because the machine is used by all the three products. So this depreciation has to be apportioned among A, B and C. Similarly, the power, because labor intensive industries require lesser hours of power, lesser units of power. But in case of mechanization, we have larger power hours, power units. So that is again used by all the products, all the services. So as we know that electricity and power is an indirect expenses. Because of mechanization, because of automation, the electricity bill is rising. That is again has to be apportioned. Now coming to maintenance. Labor intensive industries do not need any maintenance expenses. But in case of machines, you need to have proper maintenance systems to prevent from breakdown, right? So since this technology, the systems are technology driven, the indirect expenses are increasing. That is why we need to have a proper scientific costing system, right? Now, the next reason is the services are increasing. We know that the percentage of services are increasing in our GDP also. You name one area and you will have the service component, the service industry. Like we have entertainment, like the fastest growing industry is of our eateries. We have at every, you can say every 500 meters you have one or other eatery. The fast food concept is developing day by day. So but these are service industries, right? So because of service industry, you cannot assign cost to a product because services are intangible first of all, and they are not inventoriable. You cannot find a particular cost unit for a service. So since you have service, you can say the service industry is at boom, you need to carve a system which can easily accommodate the costs related to service delivery. And that is what we mean by activity based costing. Because here we are not assigning cost to a product or a unit. We are assigning cost to an activity. And that activity can happen in case of manufacturing also and in case of service delivery also, right? Secondly, first of all we have to understand that services per se, I mean to say entertainment, I mean to say you can say laundry, I mean to say hospitality, everything. This is the services per se. But if you are buying a product, to develop the competitive edge, what the manufacturers or what these organizations are doing, they are actually working on their service component, which is known as after sales service, or at a larger perspective, it is known as customer relationship management, right? How well you are retaining your customer. See, there are so many companies in the market. The only way you can develop a cutting edge, or you can say you can carve a proper place for you in the market, is to give service to the customer, right? So after sales service. So very often we see that whenever we are going to buy a mobile, so generally we look for features. That is good, that is fair enough, that is the basic purpose. But at the same time, we look for the service station. Do we have service station in Lucknow? Do we have service station in our nearby vicinity? So we are giving equal importance to the product features and the services too. The company like Maruti has not pitched on its car features, because everybody knows that previously the company has pitched its you can say the consumption of petrol. What we mean to say, the average the car is giving. But as with the competition rises in the market, we have seen that the company has started now pitching the service stations. You can find service stations at the height of Himalayas, right? That is what they are professing in their advertisements. So even the big companies like Maruti, like Hyundai, they are not actually advertising or pitching their product features. Rather, they are relying again on the service component of a product. So when a service component is increasing, it means that you cannot assign to a particular unit, because that service station is used by all the variants of Maruti Suzuki. So how can you assign cost to Alto 800, or to say Baleno, or to say Celerio, right? So because this is consumed by every brand. The same goes with CRM. No company is dividing customers on the basis of brand. Every customer is given equal treatment. So again, cost of CRM is an indirect cost. So since the component of service is increasing even in the product manufacturing, we have to look for indirect expenses, and they need to be apportioned, right? Now, in the previous days, the overheads were volume based. But see, nowadays, this is the time of not mass production. This is the time of customization. It means we have less quantity and more variety, right? When I'm saying that less quantity, it means you cannot apportion, you cannot divide your overheads on the basis of volume, because nowadays volume rarely plays any role. This is the time of customization. This is the time of tailor-made products. It means you are producing according to the requirement of the customer, right? So you can say since we have lesser quantity, so volume based overhead absorption rates are obsolete now. So we can say that volume based activities are reducing. Like I said here, volume based activities are reducing, and non-volume based activities like setup, like material handling. Why these are increasing? I am letting you know right away, right? So non-volume based activities are increasing. You have to change the machine setup. You have to move the material here and there in the organization, right? So these are unrelated, these are not related to the volume we are producing. So the component of non-volume based activities are increasing in the organization. Why? Let me tell you. See, I discussed with you the process of customization, right? So this is not the seller's market now. What has happened in the bygone days, the seller is producing the goods according to his own prejudices, according to his own whims and fancies. Whatever he is producing, that will actually be absorbed in the market. That was what I mean to say, pull system of manufacturing. Sorry, push system of manufacturing. Because the products are produced at a larger volume, they were kept in the inventory and the salesperson was given a target to push the product in the market, and thereby we are giving margin to the dealers and the distributors. Now, seeing so much competition in the market, how can a company woo a customer? Only by one factor, that is to give according to his own choice. It means we are giving him value proposition. The more this value proposition is increased, the more loyal the customer will be to the organization, right? So, when can we give a value proposition? When you meet the expectations of a customer. It means what you are doing, you are actually producing according to the needs, demands and requirements of the customer. That is what we mean by buyer's regime, right? There are so many companies in the market now that they are actually working according to the customer day and night, right? So, we are producing more variety. So every time when you are changing the variety, you need to change the setup of the machinery, right? If you need smaller packs, like for hotel, you need smaller cakes of bathing soaps, right? But this is hospitality industry is growing at a very fast pace. See, these times are an exception. I am talking about previous days and the forthcoming days, right? So, hospitality industry is a big, you can say, consumer of bathing soaps. But what they need smaller cakes, right? Likewise, they need small bottles of shampoos, body lotions. So, every time you are producing according to a restaurant or a hotel or a resort, you need to have a different setup, right? So you have to frequently change the setup of machinery. Likewise, material handling cost, because when you are working, gone are the days of product based production systems where we have lesser variety, larger volume. That is what we mean by mass production. So we rarely go into mass production. In case of mass production, material handling is less. But when you are changing the setup frequently, you need to move material frequently, and this is again an indirect expenditure. You cannot assign cost to a particular product or service. So, because of these reasons, what is happening? We have to assign cost not to a particular unit but to a particular activity. Another reason is that since we are optimizing the cost, every organization strives for optimizing the cost. When you wish to optimize the cost, you have to look for spare resources, and these spare resources are shared. So the quantity of shared resources is increasing. Now taking one example. See, technically I am the you can say the cost unit of School of Management, right? But there are so many faculties in the School of Management who are actually enrolled on School of Management books, but they are teaching in School of Hotel Management, School of Legal Studies. So what is happening? A same resource is shared by 3 cost centers. One is School of Management, another is School of Legal Studies, another is School of Hotel Management. So one faculty is utilized by these two cost centers also, right? So in every organization, you can say we have one production engineer that is shared by each product, that is shared by each service. So the quantity, since we are optimizing the cost, the shared resources are increasing, right? So since shared resources are there, we cannot assign cost to a particular cost unit. That has to be, that you can say that my salary has to be apportioned, or the faculties who are going to teach in School of Legal Studies and School of Hotel Management, their salary should be logically apportioned between School of Management, School of Legal Studies and School of Hotel Management. The same thing goes with the organizations also. We have shared resources. Like I say, library is a shared resource. Canteen is a shared resource when it comes to BBD University, or you can say BBD Educational Group. So in every organization we have such kinds of shared resources, and they are created just to optimize our cost, right? So these are the reasons we have to develop one another costing system, and that is what we call activity based costing. That is a modern technology. So let us understand the process of ABC, how this activity based costing is implemented in the organization, right? So first of all, we have to identify the cost object, right? The cost object. Cost object is any item for which cost measurement is required. Now understand, previously in traditional costing system, the cost object should necessarily be a product or a unit. But when I say activity based costing, the cost object can be a product, it can be even a customer. Right? There are so many customers who are our HNI customers, high net worth income, or you can say a brand loyal customer, right? So that organizations, just to give you can say special treatment, just to retain that customer, what the companies are doing, they are giving extra privileges to the customer. That is what we mean, that is what the companies are doing by giving loyalty points, right? So the cost object cannot be compulsorily a product. It can be your customer, it can be your distribution channel partner, right? So cost object is any item for which we have to calculate the cost, right? So first of all, we have to identify the cost. The first step is to identify the cost object for which we have to measure the cost. Next is cost driver. Now what is a cost driver? Cost driver is one factor that changes the consumption. That changes the consumption or the cost of an activity. The consumption or cost of an activity. Like you can say, if it comes to hospital, the number of patients can be a cost driver. Say for a setup cost, number of production runs can be a cost driver. For stores, number of requisitions can be a cost driver, right? See, while identifying cost driver, you can have to ask one question to yourself: what changes this activity? So in case of hospital, a patient changes the consumption. In case of stores, the number of requisition changes the cost. In case of you can say setup, the more number of production runs, the more number of setups need to be changed, right? So cost drivers are the factors that changes the consumption or the cost of an activity, right? In traditional systems, costs were assigned to cost center. Like I discussed with you, cost center are like, if you take the example of BBD University, School of Management is one cost center. School of Legal Studies is one cost center. School of Education is one cost center. So just to manage the cost, we have actually followed the principle of delegation of authority, right? So because one person sitting at the central level at the top management cannot control cost, because this is the time of bigger and larger organizations, conglomerates, etc. So you have to delegate the authority, and cost center is a center where cost accumulates, right? So in traditional systems, what we were doing, we were assigning cost to the cost centers, right? Or generally they can be your functional departments like cost of production department, cost of selling and administration department, cost of purchase department, likewise. So the costs were assigned according to the functional department, right? But since nowadays we have shared resources, we cannot assign cost on the basis of traditional system of cost centers or you can say functional departments. Okay? Right? So next step is, we have identified the cost object, we have identified the cost driver. The next is to find out the number of activities. That is the prime job. We have to identify the number of activities in the organization. Ideally, the number of activities should be should move around 40, but in the bigger organizations that number can go to even 100 or 120, right? So we have to identify what activities are taking place within an organization. See, because we have to assign cost on activities, we are not assigning cost on a product or a functional department. So the prime job is to identify the number of activities happening in the organization, right? Then the next job is to relate. The fourth step is to relate the overheads to the activities. The next step is to relate the overheads to the activities. We can have primary and support, right? Primary and support. Now see, this is the theory part which I am going to explain here. See, we'll explain the ABC system once again with the help of a numerical, right? So that you can have a clarity in the application, right? So primary functions are those functions which are vital to the organization. Like if I say BBD University, education is the primary function, right? So whatever overheads the BBD educational group is incurring in delivering the education, that is your primary function. But at the same time, the organization has canteen, library, you can say inbuilt dispensary, right? So infirmary, I mean to say. So these are support functions. So first of all, what we do? First of all, we relate overheads to the primary activity. Then these support, you can say overheads related to those support activities are again related to the spread over the primary activity, right? So this is the next step, right? So when we are relating overheads to the activity, this creates a cost pool or cost buckets. As I told you, in the traditional systems, the costs are pooled or accumulated in cost centers. But here, the costs are pooled or cost bucket is created around an activity, right? So case, the entire cost, the support costs are spread over the primary function, right? Now we have to identify the cost, relevant cost driver I should say. You have to find out the relevant cost driver, which I told you just now that for a setup it can be number of production runs, for a canteen it can be number of employees or number of students, for a library again it can be number of faculties, it can be number of students, anything. So cost driver, you have to ask one question: what changes the consumption of the activity? So whatever answer you get, that will be your cost driver, right? So you have to, the next step is to calculate the overhead absorption rate. So overhead absorption rate is calculated by activity cost, which we have calculated earlier, divided by the cost driver, right? So total activity cost divided by the cost driver. This is how, this will give you the overhead absorption rate according to the activity based system, right? So now let us move to the next topic. What is the hierarchy of activity based costing? So I think students, you have understood the process of activity based costing. First of all, what we are doing, first of all we have to identify the cost object, then you have to find out the cost driver, then number of activities, then you have to number of activities, and you have to differentiate primary and support. So in a way, what you are calculating, you are creating a cost pool or a cost bucket. Once it is created, you have to assign cost, to spread the cost to the secondary activities also, and that will give you the total cost of an activity. Once you have ascertained the total cost in the activity, you have to apportion it according to the relevant cost driver. So the overhead absorption rate will be identified by dividing the total cost of an activity by the relevant cost driver. So this is how we implement the activity based costing system. Now next is hierarchy, or the categories on which activities can take place. It can take place up to unit level. Now understand, when I say unit level, right, so generally they are primary costs, right? They are primary costs, and they can be, you can say, consumables, right? Like machine oil, like greasing, right? Okay, like cost of inspection. See, right? So cost of inspection, like say we are inspecting every 100 item. So that depends on unit, number of units we are producing. This is the first level. Second level is batch level. It means the activity is done as per the batch. You can say the cost of material ordering, because we generally order in batches, right? Then again machine setup. We produce according to the batch. See, batch costing is again a type of intermittent costing, or you can say intermittent production system. I mean to say the lesser quantity and larger variety, because you are producing in batches. So every time you have to change the setup. So machine setup is done at the batch level. Next is inspection of products. See here, when I say unit level, it means you are producing identical quantities, and that is why the activity is done at the unit level. In this case, the activity is done at the batch level, so inspection is done for every batch, right? So the first and second level is unit level and batch level, right? So third level is product level. Now please students, don't get confused by product level. When I say product level, it means when a company has different brands, right? So it can be your R&D cost, because you use research and development for different products, for different, you can say, variety. So you are not using research and development for one product or for one brand only. See, this research and development department is shared by the whole organization. You are not creating separate laboratories for testing for every brand. In fact, you have a centralized laboratory where you test or where you do research and development activity. Similarly, you have advertising cost. Advertising cost, if the company does not has a philosophy of promoting the company and the products are, you can say, promoted according to their brands, like in HUL, Lakme, like we have Parachute. So here the brands are promoted, so the overheads are calculated on the basis of product level. Now fourth in the hierarchy is the facility level. The fourth in the hierarchy is facility level. When I say facility, it means the manufacturing unit or the service delivery unit. So the facility level, we have, say, cost of insurance, right, security, say production engineer to say, right. So these costs generally occur at the facility level, right. So these are the four levels at which activities can be identified. It can be unit level, it can be batch level, it can be product level, or it can be your facility level. So now let us understand what are the advantages and disadvantages of activity based costing system, right. See, the first advantage is accurate cost of product, right. Why this happens, right? Because when we try to find out what is the cost driver, we actually try to find out, determine what is the cause and effect relationship between the activity and the cost driver. Whether this activity is actually used by the product or not. That is what we try to find out while assigning the cost driver. So in the first instance, you are trying to identify the cost and effect relationship. If a particular activity is not impacting, or you can say not impacting the production of that particular unit, it means it has no impact. So it is not relevant for the costing of that particular product. So while determining the cost and effect relationships, we actually finding out the which cost is relevant for that particular unit, batch, facility or product. Next is we have, since technology and support functions are increasing, it is actually you can say it is actually compulsory for an organization to identify the cost accurately. This I have already discussed you previously, that since the quantum of indirect cost is increasing, a simple mistake in calculation of overhead rate will seriously impact the cost of a product. Previously, the indirect expenses were less, indirect were more, but the situation has changed. We have more of indirect expenses, less of direct expenses. So indirect expenses, if not apportioned accurately, that will seriously hamper the pricing of a product. Next, so first advantage is accurate costing. Second is correct information about cost behavior. Like, so as I told you earlier, while identifying the cost driver, we try to find out whether that particular cost driver add value to the product or not. If not, it means it is not relevant. If yes, it should be included while calculating the cost. So the second thing, important thing is that we have correct information about the cost behavior, and that is done by identifying relevant cost driver, right? Whether that particular thing is adding value to the product or not, right? So that is why we are using multiple cost drivers, which is contrary to the traditional systems which were predominantly done by you can say time based systems, right? So just to have correct information about the cost behavior, it means we try to find out what changes our cost. So that is what we mean by cost driver. So that is why we have multiple cost drivers, because shared resources are increasing and automation is there in the organization. So you can have multiple cost drivers. It can be floor area, it can be number of employees, it can be number of faculty members, it can be your square feet area, anything, right? So we have multiple cost drivers. That is, see, these multiplicity of cost driver helps you in understanding the cost behavior. Next is, costs are not only allocated to products, they can be allocated to the customer, to the distribution channel, to the dealers, to the processes and to the departments. But in the traditional system, we were only focusing on units, number of units, right? So costs calculated in the ABC systems are realistic, right? So the fourth advantage is they are realistic. Since we are using multiple cost drivers, the cost is realistic. The cost is realistic. It is scientific because we are not using one overhead absorption rate, right? So next is, since we are we are using a realistic system, it means it will give adequate information, accurate information for the managerial decision making, right? So moreover, it helps in cost management, and since we are identifying the shared resources, actually we are trying to find out where do we have excess capacity. So whenever and wherever we have excess capacity, that excess capacity is utilized in another production areas or another production systems. So since you can say the service industry is at boom, the only costing system which is applied is only activity based costing, right? So I am ending up here, students. Will be taking up disadvantages and will understand the activity based costing system with the help of a numerical. So students, this is all for today. We'll take up this topic further in the forthcoming class. Thank you, students.